Breaking overnight, the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office tells us there was a deputy-involved shooting in Englewood last night. The Sheriff's Office says this happened on the 6400 block of Hamlet Drive in Englewood. They say deputies responded to a domestic disturbance and the suspect had a weapon. They say a deputy shot the suspect when a confrontation started. The suspect is expected to survive. The investigation continues this morning. You can count on us to let you know of any new developments.
This is NBC2's Chris Lovingood. We're here on Hamlet Drive in Englewood, Florida, where there has been a deputy-involved shooting in the last 24 hours. Deputies with the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office say that they responded to a domestic disturbance call here, right where I'm kind of showing you. It's a subdivision area. It looks like there's 3 different living units, and the woman who made the call said that a man had attacked her, and he apparently had a weapon on him. Now, when deputies responded, they say that the man had the weapon, had a confrontation with him, and then they ended up shooting him. Now, we've been told that he has been sent to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries, but we're not quite sure what the relationship he had with this woman was. We asked the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office, and they're still investigating. We also asked them what events led up to this deputy-involved shooting, and to see a little more specifics about what's going on. But again, they did not have the answer for us yet. But you can count on NBC2 to continue digging for this to find out what's going on. The Charlotte County Sheriff's Office did allow us to get as close as I'm getting right now to show you what's going on. You can see there is a crime scene investigator, seems to be walking inside. We did watch them come out with a metal detector and several different bags here. But again, NBC2 is staying with the story to find out exactly what happened. You can count on NBC2 to update you on the latest. Live in Charlotte County, Chris Lovingood, NBC2.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us again, once again. The sheriff is going to, the sheriff will brief you again on the events that occurred on Markham Street on Sunday. Sheriff, please step up.
Good morning, everybody. As I stated on Monday, when I had more information to provide you on this investigation, I would give it to you. I'd like to first start off by saying I want to thank you for your cooperation and your patience with regard to the release of the deputies' names. This is not just a traumatic event for family and friends of Mr. Tolby, but also of those of the deputies involved. And we like them, it's my policy to give them a chance to decompress, and we also put them through what we refer to as crisis intervention stress management debriefing, because we also want to make sure that our staff is not just physically fit for work, but also that that mental well-being is taken care of. So that is why we withheld their names, to make sure that they were okay. As stated, we responded to a 911 call on Monday evening. The female caller was very hysterical on the phone. She stated she was in fear of Mr. Tolby. Mr. Tolby is heard in the background stating to bring the cops, that he was going to kill them. At one point, the caller had locked herself in the bathroom to get away from Mr. Tolby. He did access the bathroom. There were several holes in the bathroom door. One of them appeared to be from a knife. He did make access, and he spoke to the operator, made some additional threats to the operator toward law enforcement. The operator worked diligently and talked him into going outside, away from the victim in this case. And when he said he was going to wait outside, he basically made the indication that he was going to be waiting for law enforcement to respond. The first deputy on scene was Deputy Adam Freitas. He's been with us a little over a year and a half. Within a couple minutes, Deputy First Class Scott Sarver, who is a 23-year veteran, arrived with his trainee, Deputy Tony Soltis, who's just been with us 5 months. The three approached the residence. As they're approaching the residence, they parked down the road just a little ways. As they're walking past a wooded area, they heard some rustling in the bushes. They approached the front of the house, and as they started approaching the front of the house, again, they heard more rustling in the woods, and they turned, put their flashlights up, and they saw Mr. Tolby coming out of the woods holding those knives. He was holding them up in a threatening manner and moving toward them. They kept ordering him to drop the knives, to stop, but he kept advancing toward them. They were backing up, but he came within about 10 feet of them. The deputies all had their firearms drawn, at which time Deputy First Class Scott Sarver fired his weapon 8 times. Preliminary autopsy results show that we believe he was struck with all 8 rounds, but we will not know that until we get the final autopsy report. Mr. Tolby was said to have been drinking heavily all day and was highly intoxicated. Again, I will not have the blood alcohol level until we get the toxicology report back, so we won't know his blood alcohol level or if there were any other substances in his system until we get that report back, which could be anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. So at this time, I will take some questions.
Sir, could you tell us the distance between when Mr. Tolby came out of the woods to the officers when they started to shoot at him, what that distance was?
He was less than 10 feet,
Less than 10.
which is a dangerous situation to be in when somebody is with an edge weapon.
Do you know, were the 8 shots that were fired, were they in rapid succession, or was it, 2 and then a pause, 3, and then, was it rapid succession?
Well, you can hear the shots from the 911 tape, and they all sounded pretty rapid. Normally when you're under a stressful situation like that and you are firing your weapon, it's also not uncommon for somebody to believe they only fired 2 times, but they could have emptied their magazine. In this case, Scott had fired the weapon 8 times, and it sounded like they were pretty much in succession.
And he's the only deputy that fired his weapon?
Yes.
Did he say anything as the officers approached him? Was he communicating verbally with the officers?
No, he wasn't saying anything.
Some people say that cases like these kind of illustrate the necessity for deputy body-worn cameras. Is this something that the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office is considering, or?
We've been looking into it. There's a lot of things to consider before you just strap on a camera, so it's something that we have been looking at for a while now.
Sheriff, one of the concerns, we were out in the neighborhood, spoke to some neighbors, they were wondering if gunfire was necessary in a situation. I know you guys are having investigators looking at this. Any comment on that as far as if it was justified or anything like that?
Yes, I heard there's been a lot of chatter about why we did not use less lethal. Well, you meet lethal force with lethal force. If you take out a taser, there's a chance you can hit him with the taser, but if the prongs miss or you're off target, it takes time to reload that taser, and you can close the gap of 10 feet very quickly. And you're not going to wait for the first blow to come in, because the first blow can be a fatal blow. So my deputies are not going to wait for one of their fellow deputies to get killed or injured, or for themselves to get killed or injured before somebody returns fire. You meet deadly force with deadly force, and that's how we are trained.
So you're not trained to shoot at somebody's line?
No.
The deputies, they're all on paid leave, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What protocol follow going forward will they be taking?
Well, we have the investigation that's going on by our Major Crimes Unit and the State Attorney's Office to review to make sure everything was within law. And then after that, we do our internal investigation to make sure that everything was done within policy. And we also have a shoot review team, which is part of that.
I'm sorry if you've already mentioned this, but have you spoken to the deputies that were involved? How are they doing right now?
I spoke to them. They're doing well. They're doing well as beacon under the circumstances, they're doing fine. So, and like I said, their mental well-being is very important to us. So we make sure we take the necessary steps to make sure that they are okay, because this is very traumatic for everybody involved.
Do you know if the deputy who fired his weapon, do you know if that was the first time he's ever had to do so in line of duty?
I believe it is.
But that's
It's very rare for law enforcement to ever fire their weapon during their career. And I'd like to say that it's even less here in Charlotte County. This is not something we do day in and day out, thank God.
Sheriff, have you had any feedback from the community on this case, to you specifically, on how they're feeling about?
Not me personally. Nobody's communicated with me personally. I know that some people have made some comments on social media. I've heard that other people have heard some chatter. The biggest chatter is why didn't we use less lethal? And I believe I answered that.
And you said the one who did fire his weapon was the one who had been on the force for 22 years?
23 years,
23
yes.
years. Okay. Can we get those names later on?
Absolutely.
Correct.
Were there any children in or around the house?
There was I believe she was 13 years old. She was locked in her bedroom during this incident. From what we were told, she kind of locked herself in her bedroom when he started to get aggressive within the household.
And how many other people were at the residence at the time?
That was it. There were just the three of them. The caller, the child, and Mr. Tolby.
Do you know if the child is his daughter?
There is a relation.
And the caller, can you confirm, was his wife?
There is a relation. The 911 tape, if you're interested in having it, my staff is working on it now. As you know, per law, there are certain things that must be redacted, so they are working on it now, and you should have it no later than the end of the business day today. I have not time for one more question.
Sheriff, you had said that the deputies warned Tolby, right?
Yes.
This is coming at them.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Stay safe, guys.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here this morning. We had a tragic event unfold last night, shortly after 8 p.m. on Markham Street. At this time, I'm going to introduce Sheriff Bill PRUMMELL, and he'll give you some updates on that. Please be mindful there'll be no questions asked at this time.
Hello. At approximately 8:10 p.m. last night, we received a 911 call regarding a domestic. Deputies responded. During the 911 call, a male was heard making threats toward deputies. As the deputies responded, they heard some noise in the woods to the left of the residence. As they approached, a male subject appeared out of the woods holding two knives, one of them quite large. He raised them up and was approaching the deputies. As the deputies began to back away and ordered him to stop, he continued advancing toward them with the knives raised. One of the deputies then fired several rounds, striking a white male who was later identified as Jacob Tolby. After he was shot, he fell to the ground. The deputies immediately rendered aid, and they used their officer down kits, but unfortunately he did succumb to his injuries. The deputies have been placed on administrative leave as policy. I did contact State Attorney Steve Russell last night at the scene. He did send an investigator out to work alongside our investigators as we work through this investigation. The deputies are doing well, and the family is doing as good as can be expected under the circumstances. I just ask that you keep them in your thoughts and prayers as we work through this tragic event. We have not had any other related calls for service with Mr. Tolby or at that residence. The only other calls for service we've had out there was related to a fire and to a dog complaint. Mr. Tolby's only known record was out of Wisconsin for a petty theft. So we have not had any run-ins with Mr. Tulby down here in Charlotte County. So as the investigation continues and we're able to provide some more information, I will provide you more information at that time. Thank you very much.
How many deputies?
There were 3.
Hey, Sheriff, we have a question about why your office, your intelligence division, is investigating private citizens for criminal investigation that happen to be activists that are overseeing your department. Why would you have your intelligence division investigate private citizens? We have done... Sir, we don't hate anyone. We love freedom and we love American people. And government is out of control. That's why you're seeing such a revolt nationwide. Why can't you just answer, why is Susan Edwards, your intelligence division, investigating private citizens? This should not happen.
Are you here to apply for a job?
Possibly I might be applying for a job, but that's irrelevant to my question. Why would you ask that question?
Well, enjoy the fair.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Excuse you?
Excuse me, sir.
So those of you that haven't
Wow.
been on a bike before,
Sheriff's getting a little too pushy. You work for us, Sheriff. Just keep that in mind. At one time we respected you, but not with that type of attitude.
information at that time. Thank you very much.
Soon as we learn more. For now, we're live in Charlotte County. I'm Nicole.
Breaking news that we've been following overnight comes from Charlotte County. An investigation is underway there into a sheriff's deputy shooting.
We know it happened during a domestic disturbance call. Wing News is live at the scene. What are we learning this morning, Nicole?
They confronted an individual who was...
Well, Robin, Jen, this is all where it happened last night, a little about 8 o'clock last night. I went over the way to show you. Can see it is still an active scene right now. We do have a couple Charlotte County deputies still out here at this hour. They've been out here since it all unfolded around 8 o'clock last night. This is on Markham Street in Englewood. Right now, we're told deputies were called into this home for a domestic disturbance, but when they got here, they tell me at least one person was armed. Oh, those deputies telling us they were forced to shoot. Now, we are still waiting on gathering a little bit more information on what led up to the shooting, as well as the name of the person who was shot and killed. All we know right now for sure is that one person is dead following this overnight confrontation with deputies, but we are expecting an update with Sheriff Bill Prummell this morning at 11 a.m. He'll tell us some more details on exactly what happened overnight. We'll bring you those live updates as soon as we learn more. For now, we're live in Charlotte County. I'm Nicole Valdez, Wink News now.
Charlotte County Sheriff won't release the names of the ones WHO executed the man with a knife, because less than lethal is Denise and execution is less paperwork. Press conference could bring details in officer-involved shooting. By Elaine Allen Emmerich, Community News Editor. Englewood, Charlotte County Sheriff Bill Prummell is expected to release additional information today in Sunday's deputy-involved shooting in Englewood. In a statement, Prummell said he would take questions from the media regarding the fatal shooting on Markham Street. The second press conference will update those interested in additional details of the investigation, Prummell wrote Tuesday. Prummell said as 3 deputies responded to a domestic call Sunday night, Jacob Tolby came out of the woods next to his Markham Street home with 2 knives. He allegedly charged the deputies. They told him to stop, but he continued advancing with the knives raised. During the call, a male was heard making threats to deputies. At least one of the deputies shot Tolby, and within moments he was dead. At the first press conference, Prummell didn't give names of the deputies or say who fired the shots that killed Tolby. He refused to answer any reporters' questions. Prummell said Monday the deputies were unharmed and doing well. On Tuesday, the CSO refused to release the names of the deputies who are now on paid leave following the outcome of the investigation. We haven't released the names because it's standard operating procedure so the deputies can decompress, and it allows our investigators to fully debrief them, said Skip Conroy, CSO spokesman. However, other Florida law enforcement agencies do immediately release names in officer-involved shootings. On Sunday, Heather Yates, the spokeswoman for Citrus County Sheriff's Office, issued a detailed statement to the press regarding an active shooter incident in Marion County. She wrote the chase led Citrus deputies through Hernando and Inverness and then ended in Floral City. The suspect, James Leroy Marker, 66, of Chokoloskee, Florida, was killed following a confrontation with law enforcement that caused extensive damage to the Sibyl pipeline in Marion County. The Florida Highway Patrol responded to assist. Marker engaged with officers before being fired upon. Although the situation was extremely volatile and dangerous, no one other than Marker was injured. A number of Citrus deputies responded to the incident, but those involved in the shooting were Detective Jason Strickland, Deputy Gabriel Jarena and Deputy Jericho McIntyre. All 3 officers have been placed on paid administrative leave per Citrus policy regarding an officer-involved shooting incident, Yates wrote. The Palm Bay Police Department also released the names in a recent shootout which involved a 70-year-old man who was shot and wounded after he pulled a gun on 2 rookie police officers. According to the Palm Bay Police Department, the officers were Peter Dozy and Dwayne Smith. Both officers served in the U.S. Marine Corps. They were placed on paid leave pending the outcome of an investigation by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Dulce has been with the agency since 2016, and Smith, 2015. On Monday, the Sun requested the personnel file of one of the COPWATCH deputies believed to be on scene during the shooting. "I don't have access to those things," said Conroy, who oversees requests from the media. "I forwarded the request to our records units. They fill the requests as they come in and in that order. They don't bump up requests for the media. It could be 3 days out before the newspaper can view the personnel file. It could be tomorrow. I don't know. The records unit receives many requests." Conroy said he was unable to provide additional details, including if there were any children around the home during the shooting or why deputies didn't use less lethal means to subdue the suspect. "I hope the sheriff is in a position to answer those questions during the press conference," Conroy said. He will have more details at the press conference. Email, elon@sun-herald.com. PRUMMELL.
Hey, Sheriff, we have a question about why your office, your intelligence division, is investigating private citizens for criminal investigation that happen to be activists that are overseeing your department. Why would you have your intelligence division investigate private citizens? We have done...
For life hating so much.
Sir, we don't hate anyone. We love freedom and we love American people. And government is out of control. That's why you're seeing such a revolt nationwide. Why can't you just answer, why is Susan Edwards, your intelligence division, investigating private citizens? This should not happen.
Are you here to apply for a job?
Possibly I might be applying for a job, but that's irrelevant to my question. Why would you ask that question?
Well, enjoy the fair.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Excuse you?
Excuse me, sir.
So those of you that haven't been on a bike before,
Sheriff's getting a little too pushy. You work for us, Sheriff. Just keep that in mind. At one time we respected you, but not with that type of attitude.